This is Blenderstyle, the show where we discuss a blend of heavy and extreme music. On this episode, Down, Nola. This album was released 1995 on Elektra Records. Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
This is one called Blending All.
Let's go.
Nathan, this is your pick. Why'd you choose Down, Nola?
Because I'm a huge fan of Phil Anselmo and the other members in this band. Are in Crowbar, Goat I Hate God, Corrosion of Conformity. So this is like a super group, and I'm a fan of all those bands. So.
And this was their debut album.
Yes, Nola. New Orleans.
Yep, because they're all from New Orleans, right? All those dudes from Crowbar and whatnot. Yeah. COC. How about you, Casey? You're familiar with Down Nola?
Yeah, so I'm familiar with it from back in the day. I haven't listened to this album all the way through in a long time. I think every time we hang out, we play at least Stone the Crow and maybe Temptation's Wings or something. But I haven't sat down and listened to this since we were kids. Like, what, 95, 96, somewhere around there? When did this come out?
95, yeah.
Yeah. So,
and he was supposedly still kind of in Pantera, right?
He was absolutely in Pantera.
He was absolutely,
Yeah, Far Beyond Driven, I think, came out in 96 or 7.
Something like that.
This was at the peak of all these guys' career, in my opinion. I feel like Crowbar, Pantera, and COC were all at their best in the early 90s.
Well, this is also kind of the peak of that genre of music. That not Down, but all those bands.
The sludge metal, yeah.
I mean, this was like kind of when all that stuff was really popping, and for them to branch off and kind of leave what they had and do this side project, it was a controversial thing at the time. I mean, I know it drove kind of a wedge in between Pantera because everybody was pissed off that Phil was off doing his own thing and not including them, and there was a potential for him to get big or bigger than them.
But this becomes a theme with Phil Anselmo where he's like in 1,000 projects.
Oh, yeah, he's in many, many different projects.
Well, and this band was formed in, 91?
Yeah, so
New Orleans, and they didn't get signed for years. It was just kind of a jam project, it seems like.
Interesting.
So apparently they had some songs that were recorded, and each of them got had a tape. And what they would do is while they were on tour with their other bands, they would play these songs to certain people, not tell them who it was and everything, and people were like loving it. Like whoever they showed, So whoever they showed these demos to, everyone was like, "What the fuck?"
Yeah, I read that like their first, I think it was a 3-track demo, was only available through underground trading. They would give them out to like the band members, and when they were touring with their main bands, like Dave was saying, they would walk up to fans and people and be like, "Hey, have you heard that band Down? Check it out." Not telling them they were in the band. Yeah. And they got this like pretty big following just from handing out stuff, and nobody knew who was actually in the band.
So when this came out, it kind of hit hard, do you think?
They did that for a few years, and then one of the executives from Elektra Records got a hold of one of their demos, and they were playing a small show in New Orleans, and he showed up and realized who was in the band and signed him immediately.
How did an A&R guy not find this earlier? Like, this is clearly a special band with special members in the band. Were they just not playing live in that?
No, they just weren't talking about it.
Yeah, they were.
So this band was working on these things for quite a while, and when they finally had this material, they dropped it, and it actually hit in the Billboard 200 charts.
Yeah.
57 for 6 weeks. It was on the top 200 charts.
Really?
So when this came out, this actually, I would say, made a big.
Big
splash.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also to touch on that, it wasn't their 3-song demo that got the attention, because by the time they were signed, they had recorded a 3-song, 4-track, and then I think a 10-track demo.
I know nothing of the demos. Okay. I know that they had recorded because they got together and they practiced.
So they did the 3-track, they did a 4-track, which was exactly the same as the 3-track, just with an intro, and they did a 4-track, and that's the one that kind of started blowing them up. And then when they showed up there. But my issue isn't necessarily.
Then this is the first release.
This is the first release. Yeah, after being signed. Now they'd been around for a while. By the time.
You can't get the demos; they're like not on main.
I don't think so.
Yeah, okay.
I think it'd be hard. I mean, you might get lucky and find one bootleg somewhere, but I doubt you're going to find an actual copy. So Phil has a distinct voice. you know it's Phil. I mean, well, maybe back then you didn't, but if you heard a song now, you could tell it's Phil by the sound.
Still to this day.
So-
Scour all the different bands
so
he does.
for an A&R guy to have to hear the demo, or for all the people that were handed this demo not to realize right off the bat that it's Phil Anselmo.
Well, it's
that-
Elektra, bro. Like, they signed Metallica.
But I'm saying
They don't know
even the
anything.
people they handed out these demos to, and like, oh, if you heard the band Down and check this out, and handed out this tape to.
Well, maybe they might have. Maybe Phil was like, "Hey, man, this is something I'm working on," but didn't say, "Hey, all these other dudes from New Orleans are up in this mix." You know what I mean?
Well, according to the what I read on the interwebs, it's that they just handed it out and didn't tell them they were in the band. Never told anybody their names weren't on the demo. It was just down with the track listing.
I feel like Phil's pretty dang diverse in this record, though.
Well, he's super diverse in all the stuff that he does. But yeah, this one kind of spans a lot of different styles of music, more so than what he was known for at the time.
So what would you call this?
I would call this sludgy groove metal, which Pantera is credited for being groove metal, Crowbar sludge metal.
It's like a mashup of the two.
COC is kind of a, they even did a little bit of punk, but to me, Pepper Keenan is more of like the Deliverance era of COC, and it has like a more like stoner rock. So this is like sludge metal, groove metal, stoner metal.
It has that New Orleans sound.
And it's from New Orleans.
It just has that New Orleans sound for sure. I hear hardcore, punk, southern rock, and stoner rock.
Yeah.
So when I went back and listened to this, I jotted down like the different things that I kind of heard, and it was real simple and real easy, and that's what I got. It's like Leonard Skinner and Black Sabbath, like hanging out.
That's cool, yeah. I get that. It's real chunky on the guitar. The guitar playing is great on this.
Oh yeah, it is.
The drumming's real loose and
that's one of the
pocket.
Yeah. That's one of the cool things. It almost has like kind of a swingy thing going on.
He does a lot of triplet fills.
Yeah. It's really cool because it's not something you would normally hear with like a heavy distorted guitar and stuff, and it works so well.
Totally agree. It does have that. It does swing sometime when they move into triplets and stuff like that.
The vocal or the lyrical content on this has almost a depressive down vibe feel.
Like he's dealing with some shit. Huh?
Like he's dealing with some shit, and I mean, in hindsight, we all know what was going on at the time. But in interviews, Phil says that these songs really have no meaning. They were all just words that he wrote down at the time, and he doesn't know what he's singing about half the time.
I mean, was he doing a lot of heroin there?
Well, and that's kind of where I'm at, because there's some songs on here I'm like, oh, dude, this is like so like a cry for help. Like, get me out of this shit. Yeah. But he says that it, like, in a couple interviews, he's like, no, they just like they don't know what they mean. They're just kind of there.
Huh.
His vocal performance is fucking great.
His voice is on point.
I would have to say that this is my favorite Phil vocal
style.
Performance.
Nola. Like, he's great in everything, but Nola for me, I think, he's got Lifer. He's got, so many tracks on here that he is either getting high, bluesy, or like he's doing it all.
He does this like mid-range stuff a lot on Temptation's Wing, and then he's like screaming over it. And it sounds so badass.
So Pantera, Vulgar Display of Power was when he kind of really pushed forefront with his grindy kind of stuff, and then before that, Cowboys from Hell was kind of that
record too,
kind of that glam rock thing.
More 80s metal sounding.
This blends the two, but then like you said, it adds that really bluesy element that you heard occasionally in the Pantera stuff up to that point, but it wasn't forefront. And this really took advantage of it. And like you were saying, Nate, his vocal performance on this is on point. Like he's got that deep, like almost like moaning kind of thing going on, and it's really good.
And he does some spoken word almost, where he's just doing like talking on the album.
Yeah, it's weird that he would say something like that, because like for me, well, it's always up to the fans' interpretation of what's going on, right? But to me, these lyrics are actually pretty spot on. I see suicide, I see drug use, I see, self-loathing, I don't know. That's weird. That is almost crushing my heart that he just wrote this on a napkin and was like,
and that's how I feel about it too, because I feel like a lot of this was like that. Did you ever watch that thing where he sat down with I don't remember what university it was, and he did the it was like a poetry thing, and he talked about heroin or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It's like all of this stuff that he spoke about in there, way before any of that stuff came out.
Yeah.
It's like it's almost like he's singing about it before he comes to the world and says, "Yeah, I have a heroin problem," kind of thing.
Before like maybe even realizes, and he's like,
yeah, maybe, but like subconsciously he did, which is weird because I'm with you. I feel like there's a lot of meaning behind these lyrics, but then to read that there weren't a lot of meanings, I was like, no, there's no way, dude, because this you could feel it, like you could feel it in his voice throughout this whole thing. It's really good.
Let's talk about what we like. What'd you like about this, Nate?
I really love the guitar riffs. I love how they can get rocking. I love how they can bring it down and get real bluesy. I love how the drums are really in the pocket, like you said. I love that it has a New Orleans sound. It has that southern sound, which I love because, Leonard Skinner fan and stuff.
Right on.
And this, like I said, this is Black Sabbath and Leonard Skinner hanging out, having some beers. I feel like this is a record you could, if your father was into it, you could, hang out and listen to this record. I think it's pretty diverse. I think young people, older people can get into it. The vocal, the vocals were great, obviously. I think this is a great, well-rounded record.
One of my likes about it too is also how accessible it is. Like I can play this when my dad's in the car with me and he can just jam out with it. It's not too heavy. Like Temptations Wing, he's screaming quite a bit. But it doesn't sound too abrasive. Like he does it really tastefully.
Well, like you could make a mix for somebody and slip a down song in there, and they'd be like, "Fucking."
It works well. Yeah, it totally does.
Well, and like you said on Temptations Wing, up to that point where he starts screaming, it's super accessible.
One of the likes for me is Temptations Wing. That song is fucking untouchable. Mm-hmm. It's a masterpiece of sludge groove metal.
Oh yeah, it is.
Like in my notes, I'm like fave song, because I do this for all the records, And like, I looked and I was like, I'm not even gonna write it down because, like, honestly, all these songs are my favorite songs.
Really?
Oh yeah, I would say all these songs except for the little acoustic interlude thing, and Jail. It shouldn't be there. I know why it's there, but it wasn't executed well. They could have.
I think Jail was a nice touch.
Well, I feel like a song like that needed to be there within that album, but they could have put a little more effort.
I think they should have put it towards the end because I feel like it really broke the flow of the album.
It was deep. It was more than halfway through, right?
It was about halfway.
Yeah. But Temptations Wings, I think, overshadows the rest of the album.
Yeah, that really starts off and sets the expectation, and it never quite reaches that point again. And that was some of the stuff I liked. Like I really liked how sludgy it was. There's a lot of vocal and guitar layering going on. Like if you listen to it, you could hear there's a lot of layering going on in Phil's voice and a lot of really cool background vocals and voices. And like you said, spoken words that are spoken in the background that aren't necessarily part of the song.
The intro.
Yeah, they're nice little additions.
This one's called Losing All.
Yeah.
I love that.
Like, why would that even be put in there?
Yeah, why are you announcing the name of the
and
song
I love
you're recording?
And when he plays it live, he says, this one's called Losing All. And motherfuckers fucking.
I love that part.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like on fucking Hostile. He counts it in 1, 2, 3, 4. Like you don't have to.
Dude, this record sounds like what they would sound like live. I've never seen Down live. I really hope to see Down live. And if I see Down live and it sounds
anywhere close,
it's gonna
Yeah,
they're all pros. It won't be the same members. It fucking might be the same.
It might. Well, and should we bring this up? So who played bass? Was this Rex on this, or was this?
No, Rex wasn't until
Rex played in it, right?
Later on, he did like on 2 or 3.
Yeah.
Jimmy Bauer plays drums on this. I don't remember who plays bass. Phil sings. Pepper Keenan from COC plays guitar. Weinstein? Not Weinstein.
Really?
Weinstein.
Okay.
Yeah.
From Crowbar plays guitar.
Yeah.
I fucking love Crowbar.
So So yeah, I love the sludgy feel of this. I mean, it feels like New Orleans. When I heard people say that, oh yeah, that sounds like New Orleans, it has that feel. It feels exactly like the city, like the vibe. Uh, I was like, I don't see how anybody could say that something sounds like a city. And then we went down to New Orleans that one year for Halloween.
You went to Voodoo Fest too, right?
Yeah, and dude, it's exactly what New Orleans sounds like. Like it feels like it was the best time I ever had. I would totally go there again. This album captures that vibe, that like kind of slow. Everybody's down to chill with each other. Everybody's super friendly. It's great. There's a ton of vocal and guitar layering on this, and it doesn't get muddy. It sounds really cool. A lot of spoken background stuff, like we were talking about earlier, with like the intro to Losing All and things like that. But there's also some cool little breakdown parts where you could hear like in the background Phil mumbling something. You don't know what it is, but it sounds really good. The guitar solos on this are amazing. Like there's not a lot of them, but the ones that are have that really cool bluesy.
They're like bluesy.
They're really
like,
riffy.
Yeah, they're super riffy, like bluegrass.
Not shred at all.
No, they're not like high fly,
Bluesy,
like flashy. Man. It's like a skilled guitar, like somebody who took guitar lessons and learned how to play a really good blues guitar. Like, it's great.
What'd you dislike about it though, Casey?
So my biggest dislike on this was kind of what Nate touched on earlier. This album's loud. But at some points, it's almost like somebody wasn't paying attention and bumped the slider on certain parts. So you'll be listening to it and we'll bust into a solo, and then when it comes back, the chorus part or the bridge or whatever is higher than it was previous. And it's not very often. It's few and far between, but it is noticeable. Other than that, there wasn't a lot of stuff that I didn't like about this album. That jail interlude, I think I could have done without. That kind of broke the flow of it. But this album it kills through the whole thing. It's great. What about you, Matt? What didn't you like about it?
I kind of agree. Like the playing on this is excellent, but the songwriting kind of gets boring. Like they're pretty predictable. I've heard this a million times, so when I was listening to it again, it kind of gets boring. But I'm nitpicking, if I can be honest. It's other than that, I pretty much like it.
Yeah, I feel you on that. Like I was 2 or 3 times into it, and I was like, man, I heard this album so many times.
Like midway through, I get lost. It just kind of loses me in the background. Nothing really jumps out at you. It's really, really easy to listen to.
It is.
But I guess that's my complaint about it. It's like so easy that it's like
it can't keep your attention.
It doesn't keep my attention, right?
Now, to touch on that, does it not keep your attention because you've heard it so many times? Like when you were younger and you heard this, it blew my shit away. And that's kind of where I'm at with it too, because I was like, when I listened to it, I felt the same way. I was like, man, I remember this being like, I was just like so in the zone listening to it, but now I listen to it, and after like 2 or 3 times, I'm kind of like, I've heard this so many times that I'm just kind of like, cool, still a great album.
I have the entire thing memorized.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's great, but it just like at this point, I'm like, I've heard it all. So kind of easily lose because it's so accessible and easy to listen to.
You've heard it so many times.
It's not a challenging thing to listen to it, but it is like it blows you away the first time you hear it for sure.
Oh yeah.
Another thing I really did not like about this album is the beginning of Temptation's Wings sounds exactly like Losing All. Like the guitar riff is almost identical.
Yeah, I totally forgot about that. But yeah, that.
Like if you put this album on shuffle and those are back to back, you're like, what the fuck?
I just listened to this song. Why did they remix it?
Yeah. Maybe they were really drunk at that time.
I fucking hope so. What about you, Nate? What'd you not like about Down Nola?
Jail.
Really? I really like Jail.
No, I don't like Jail because, the record has a feel and it has a flow for me. I don't hate Jail, but if I'm listening to it at work and my phone's in my pocket, I'm really hoping that I could get to it to skip it, but I can't. So I listen to Jail. And I really don't have a lot to dislike about this.
So I gave this a 3.7 out of 5. Great album. It gives a awesome vibe of like buddies getting together and jamming, hanging out, drinking, doing whatever and jamming. It's got that really jammy vibe. It's got a cool like mixture of, like you said, stoner rock and sludge metal and southern rock and everything. And the musicianship just kills on this. I mean, there's one song on here that I'm with you that I would skip almost every time, but there's not much on this album that I don't like. What about you, Matt?
I give this a 4.3 out of 5. This is an awesome album, and like you were saying, Nate, you can put this on in any situation. You're working, you're working out, you're hanging with friends. Put on Down Nola.
Nice.
My rating is 5.0. I think
I
love the imperfections. I love that it's gritty. I love that it is predictable. I love that I know every word to this. And like, if I show up at work and I got to go up a ladder at 6:30 in the morning and I put this record on, I'm good.
Fuck yeah, bro.
I'm fucking getting it.
Fuck yes.
And if I'm drunk and I'm hanging outside and I'm barbecuing, Stone the Crow, Bury Me in Smoke. This is a great record, 5.0 for me.
Wow.
This is Blenderstyle. That was Down Nola.
We're from Blenderstyle. You listen to our radio station because we tell you to. Blenderstyle.